In the pitch black of night, July 15th, 2013, on a remote stretch of sand in Oaxaca, Mexico, a miracle was unfolding. The beach, normally deserted at this hour, buzzed with hushed activity as dozens of tiny creatures fought their way through the surface of the sand, each no bigger than a bottle cap. Miguel Sanchez hadn't slept in 48 hours. His calloused hands, worn from years of patrol work, gripped his flashlight tightly as he scanned the beach. The conservation center he'd built from nothing was failing. Turtle egg poaching had reached unprecedented levels, and tonight represented perhaps their last chance to make a difference. "We found another nest," whispered Anna, his 19-year-old daughter. Her voice trembled with both exhaustion and excitement. "But it's been tampered with." The olive ridley sea turtle population along Mexico's Pacific coast had plummeted by 70% in just 5 years. Each turtle nest contained roughly 100 eggs, each worth nearly a day's wages on the black market. For the impoverished local community, the temptation was often too great to resist. Miguel had grown up in this village. He remembered a time when the beach would darken with thousands of nesting females, their ancient instincts bringing them back to the very shore where they had hatched decades earlier. Now, on good nights, they might see a dozen. The lights from new coastal developments confused the turtles. Fishing nets trapped them, and human hands stole their eggs before they had a chance to develop. But what happened next would transform not just the turtles' fate, but an entire community's relationship with the ancient creatures they'd hunted for generations. "They're early," Miguel murmured, kneeling beside the disturbed sand. "Something's wrong." The turtles weren't supposed to hatch for another week. Predators, both human and animal, knew this too. The tiny creatures emerging now faced almost certain death. Miguel's conservation center, little more than a shack with some makeshift incubators, had been vandalized the previous night. Equipment destroyed, saved nests raided. The message was clear. The poachers weren't stopping. Miguel had found a crude drawing pinned to the door, a turtle on its back, legs waving helplessly in the air. A death threat, clear as day. "Dad, look!" Anna pointed toward the waterline. In the beam of their flashlights, they saw a sight that stopped their hearts. A group of local children, the same ones who'd often helped poachers locate nests, were forming a human chain from the nesting site to the water's edge. Luis, a 10-year-old boy whose father was known locally as the most prolific poacher, stepped forward. "We want to help," he said simply, his small face determined in the flashlight's glow. That night, 89 baby olive ridley turtles made it to the water, when normally fewer than 20 would survive the journey. But the real transformation was just beginning. By sunrise, word had spread through the village. The children's actions had sparked something, shame in some, curiosity in others. Miguel seized the moment and opened the doors of his struggling conservation center to the community. "These turtles have returned to this beach for 10,000 years, he told the gathering crowd. "Our grandchildren may never see them if we continue this way." Among those listening was Carlos Mendez, who had spent 20 years hunting turtle eggs. The previous night, his son Luis had come home with tears streaming down his face, describing the tiny turtle's struggle to reach the sea. "The babies were so strong, Papa," Luis had said. "They never stopped trying, even when they kept falling over. When the waves pushed them back, they waited and tried again. They never gave up." Carlos had sat quietly, listening to his son. The boy's words struck something deep within him. For years, Carlos had justified his poaching. His family needed to eat, needed medicine, needed school supplies. But looking at his son's tear-stained face, he realized he'd been teaching Luis that survival meant taking from others, from creatures who, as his son had seen, fought just as hard to survive. August 3rd, 2013. Carlos approached the conservation center, tension evident in every line of his body. Miguel prepared for confrontation, but what Carlos offered instead changed everything. "I know where the major nesting grounds are," he said quietly. "Places even you haven't found." He hesitated, then added, "I also know who's been threatening you. I can help with that too." That late summer became known locally as the Summer of Return. Former poachers, led by Carlos, began working alongside Miguel. Their intimate knowledge of turtle behavior, gained through years of hunting, proved invaluable for conservation efforts. Carlos revealed that many nests were being raided by outsiders, commercial poachers from the city who paid local children for information. By establishing a community watch program and offering those same children small payments to protect rather than betray nest locations, they began to turn the tide. The children, once unwitting accomplices to poaching, became the turtles' fiercest guardians. But nature wasn't finished testing their resolve. September 1st, 2013. Hurricane Manuel formed off Mexico's Pacific coast. The small conservation center lay directly in its path. As the storm approached, Miguel faced an impossible choice: evacuate and abandon the hundreds of eggs now in their care, or risk the lives of his team. Anna refused to leave. "If we go, they all die," she said simply. The hurricane struck with devastating force. Winds of 85 miles per hour tore at the conservation center's roof. Storm surge threatened to flood the incubators. For 36 hours, Miguel, Ana, Carlos, and a dozen converted poachers worked in shifts, moving eggs to higher ground, reinforcing walls against the wind, battling nature itself to save creatures that nature seemed determined to reclaim. Luis stayed throughout the storm, helping to move the precious eggs to safety, his small hands working alongside the adults. "The turtles can't save themselves right now," he explained when Miguel tried to send him home to safety. "They need us." When the storm finally passed, they emerged to devastation. Half the beach had been washed away. Their equipment, precious and irreplaceable in this remote region, was destroyed. Salt water had inundated the hatchery. Miguel feared the worst for their incubating eggs. "Perhaps this is a sign," murmured one of the men. "Perhaps we're fighting against what's meant to be." Miguel himself wavered, surveying the wreckage of his life's work. But then Ana gave a shout from inside the damaged building. Against all odds, the incubators had held. And inside one, the first tiny head was pushing through its shell. Word spread through the battered community. People still dealing with damage to their own homes came to witness the hatching. Children formed a protective corridor once again, this time joined by their parents and grandparents. The release of those turtles, 157 of them, each no heavier than a spoonful of water, became symbolic of the community's own resilience. "We survived together," Carlos announced, as the last turtle disappeared into the foam. By December 2013, poaching in the region had decreased by 87%. The conservation center, rebuilt with community labor, had expanded. Former poachers now led nighttime beach patrols, their intimate knowledge of poaching techniques making them exceptionally effective guardians. But the most dramatic moment was yet to come. January 9th, 2014. A massive female olive ridley turtle heaved herself onto the beach. Something about her movements caught Miguel's attention. When he examined her more closely, he noticed a distinctive pattern on her shell, one he recognized from photographs taken 15 years earlier. "She's one of the first turtles I ever helped," he whispered to Ana, his voice breaking. "She's come home." Scientists would later confirm this turtle was at least 17 years old, meaning she had indeed been from one of the earliest releases Miguel had overseen as a young conservationist. The odds of her survival and return were astronomical. Yet here she was, laying her own eggs on the very beach where she had hatched. The community named her Esperanza, hope. Local fishermen who once viewed the conservation efforts with hostility began reporting turtle sightings. School children developed a tracking system to monitor nesting sites. What had begun as one man's struggle became a community's mission. By summer 2014, the Mexican government took notice. The small conservation center received its first official funding. Researchers from universities in Mexico City arrived to study what they called the Oaxaca model of community-led conservation. Today, that remote stretch of Mexican coastline boasts one of the most successful sea turtle conservation programs in the world. Miguel still leads it, though his hair has grown gray. Ana has completed her biology degree and returned to work alongside her father. Carlos trains former poachers to become conservationists. And every July, the community gathers to witness the miracle again, tiny creatures emerging from the sand, beginning their impossible journey. The turtle hatchlings still face tremendous odds. Ocean pollution, climate change, and predators will claim many. But now, for their first crucial moments of life, they have something they never had before: allies on the shore, guiding their path to the sea. In saving the turtles, the people of this small Mexican community discovered something profound about themselves. As one former poacher put it, "We thought we were changing our ways to save the turtles. We didn't realize the turtles were changing us." Miguel still walks the beach each night, flashlight in hand, but he no longer walks alone. If you enjoyed, then watch our next video shown on screen.